Good morning, Thunder fans. It is May 13th, and folks, a massive, massive Game 5 tonight. So we're going to do a bit of an atypical pregame show to get you fired up and ready for tonight's 8:30 p.m. Central tip against the Denver Nuggets. And folks, let me just be upfront. Let me be very just straightforward right now. I know a lot's going on in the NBA across the board. Don't let your mind's eye slip from the importance of this Game 5. This is an incredible opportunity for Oklahoma City. And look, nothing's given. We look at how this team has performed, and at times they've been the better team. In terms of most control metrics, the Thunder have controlled this series. But that doesn't matter. What matters is winning Game 5. This is to, again, borrow from what Mark and everyone else is saying. This series is 0-0. Best of three. So first to two, and it starts right now. And if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, you have to win this one at home. Make sure to put it in a situation where you cannot lose the series in Denver on Thursday. And the vibes need to be that. Just comparatively, this year and last year, we had a very similar situation. You know, a Game 5 after a dramatic, emotional win in Game 4 in Denver. And, you know, just to be frank, that Game 5 in OKC was flat. The crowd wasn't quite there. The Thunder didn't play with the level of urgency they needed, and the Dallas Mavericks did. They stepped up, hit big shots on the road, and controlled that game from start to finish. The crowd never got into it, and frankly, that can't happen this year. That has to be a lesson for the Thunder. We've seen that they play their best whenever they have this sense of urgency, this pressure on them, backs against the wall, and they have to play like their backs are against the wall tonight, because they are. Because you do not want to send this thing back to Mile High and, you know, risk getting eliminated in a very, very raucous environment. That Denver crowd is excellent, I will say. When they're rocking, they're rocking. And, you know, shot variance, you know, matters, you know, when it comes to home and road. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But also, let's be honest, you know, this is going to be a pretty intense environment, and it should be. There is a very good chance that Gilgeous-Alexander is awarded the MVP at this game. We'll see how it all plays out. By the time you're listening to this, there might already be an announcement, but we'll see. It has gone a little atypically long. Usually this thing is announced in the second round in, you know, the first two games of whatever team series it is. So if it doesn't go on tonight, there's no way they're going to do it this series, or it goes to Jokic in Game 6. But that, you would hope, has, you know, an impact on the crowd, and hopefully an impact on SGA to show up and have a big performance. But one thing's for sure, the Denver Nuggets are going to be desperate tonight. They do not want they want to get this one. You would much rather try to win a game 5, bring it back home and win Game 6 than have to win 2 in a row, including a Game 7 on the road in one of the toughest environments in the NBA. The Denver Nuggets are going to be pulling out all stops and will be fully desperate to win this one, without a doubt. So the vibes, they have to be right. They have to be loud. They have to be incredible. Like, the team has to be, you know, everything has to be right. You have to be focused. The fans have to be intense. This moment has to feel big and be treated as such. Number 2, the shooting has to be better. As I've just mentioned, home road shot variance, definitely a thing. A good friend Ian sent me like a really interesting stat of, you know, the starter 3-point shooting, you know, in that two game stretch in Denver. Shea shot 9% from 3, Lou Dort shot 14% from 3, Chet 11%, and J-Dub 25%. Those were the starters' 3-point percentage. Isaiah Hardenstein obviously didn't shoot any. That has to shift. One of the big reasons why Oklahoma City dominated Game 2 in the fashion they did was because of their shooting, because they couldn't miss. And, you know, the Nuggets were you know, typically not very hot. They did not shoot very well. They could not keep pace. And if you're the Thunder, you know, regardless of how hot the Nuggets are in this one, that has to change. If this is another, you know, bad shooting, gross performance, that does not bode well for Oklahoma City by any means. So, you know, hopefully, you know, the Denver shooting trend, you know, from Game 4, which was very, very poor, continues on, but we'll see. And for 3, I think the biggest thing at this point, and we talked about this at the start of the series, and it's starting to matter a little bit more and more, but the depth and wear of these two teams is massive. The Nuggets are essentially only playing 6 guys. You know, Russell Westbrook got 20 some odd minutes, and no one else on the bench logged double-digit minutes at all. And this team, and you can tell the Nuggets look look pretty worn, especially Nikola Jokic. He's been bad in game 2, bad in game 3, and bad in game 4. He has not been the MVP caliber player we've seen, and you can tell it's this series and the series before have started to wear on Nikola Jokic. Now, will you get 4 straight games? I don't know. I didn't think we'd get 2, and I certainly didn't think we'd get 3 straight bad games from Jokic. So I expect to see maybe a bounce back game here. But if you're the Thunder, you got to keep wearing on him, got to keep making it really hard on him to, to play his game, keep cutting off assist lanes, forcing him to make tough shots, because that has been a decent formula so far. I think the other Nuggets, you want them to, continue to have kind of poor performances like we saw in game 4. Porter Jr., for example, had this miraculous game 3, but game 4, he couldn't do anything. Clearly that shoulder's wearing on him. I still don't know how the guy's out there playing as many minutes as he is, but you're going to have to make it tough on him. And just overall, the role players for the Nuggets, overall, you kind of have to, I don't want to say let them beat you, but if you're having to count on miracle Aaron Gordon performances and crazy shots, like, you take that over a Nikola Jokic masterclass any day. And look, the Thunder just flat out are deeper. Can the bench continue to outpace the Denver Nuggets? Can we get great performances like out of Aaron Wiggins like we've seen? Cason Wallace has been great. And of course, Alex Caruso has been probably I don't want to say the MVP of the playoffs so far, but pretty much the MVP of the playoffs so far, just in terms of veteran leadership, the defense. If they can continue to shine and, really provide support, especially in, the non-Jokic minutes, which have not been as good as we would have liked, that will be huge. So just here's the main diagnosis here for you, just to wrap this thing up. You got to start hot and fast. This has to be an environment that is cranked up to 11. All of the pregame stuff that you have to justify and validate that with a really fast performance. That's how game 2 got out of hand. Make this one get out of hand. Overwhelm the Nuggets early with fresher legs, improve shooting from what we saw in Denver, and keep the pedal to the metal. Do not let this be like a 5-point game. For a majority of the game. This has to be like a 10, 15-point lead. Pull away from this team. Make them start having to think about game 6, early. Continue to overwhelm Jokic, force the other Nuggets to have abnormal performances, and just do not let this get close. Because at that point, you're playing a very dangerous game. This is a Thunder team that has controlled this series, and frankly, this would be a different conversation. This would be a 3-1 conversation if the Thunder took better advantage of opportunities provided to them in game 1 and game 3. Do not allow this to happen for essentially a 5th time, or not 5th time, a 4th time this series. This has to be a situation where the Thunder assert their will and take a solid lead, and you'd have to feel good going into game 6. Where you got 2 bites at the apple to try to advance to the Western Conference Finals. That's all I have for this one. I'll be right back with you after this one, either late night or early in the morning, to recap game 5. So make sure to subscribe so you get that one on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app. But until then, enjoy game 5. Be loud, Oklahoma City, and Thunder up, everyone. Look, it's going to be a long wait. We'll get through this together.